going to talk about a subject that I am passionate about, which is communicating about climate change. One of the biggest fallacies I think we find in talking about climate change is that we expect that other people will care about the issue for the same reasons that we care about the issue. That is absolutely not the case. Most people do not give a shit about climate change, let's be honest. Well, one of the things I've been running for the last few years here is kind of an experiment on my own family and trying to get them to think more about climate change. And I think the issue is you need to figure out a way to connect it with their own experience and their own lives. So, background on me. I grew up in a pretty conservative family. I grew up on a farm, a vegetable farm in New Jersey. I mean, I know what you're thinking. Jersey, right? The Turnpike, Jersey Shore, the third reference to Jersey Shore tonight. I mean, really, Jersey, we gotta get it together if this is all we can come up with to reference the Jersey Shore. But don't forget the Jersey tomato. I mean, have you seen these things? They're giant. It's like an advertisement for GMOs in that state. It is the Garden State. I mean, how do we forget that? Anyway, I'm from South Jersey. Way, way South Jersey. Like, you get off the Turnpike, and then you drive another hour. We're over here, right here, between swamps and toxic waste, and pretty much Alabama. So my family came to the US in 1683. They basically went straight to Jersey, set up shop, and have not left New Jersey. This is my great-great-grandfather, Howard Sheppard, delivering tomatoes back at the turn of the century. This is before Giant brought your groceries to your house. Howard Sheppard brought groceries to your house in 1900. This is my great-grandfather, Gilbert Sheppard. He bought the first tractor in our town. It's a Case steam tractor, and that was in the early 1920s. So today, my dad, Tom is the good-looking gentleman right here, and his brothers David and Erwin, and this was my grandfather, still farm about 2 miles away from the original farm. This is them out in the fields, looking very hip in the 1970s. So my family has been in the same place farming for 330 years. Most people cannot say that. You live in the suburbs, you've probably never even been to a farm. We grew up on the farm. This is me and my brother getting trained to work in the fields as children. This is my brother out in the fields. There's no such thing as child labor laws when you grow up on a farm. You're out in the field from like day one. Here I am piloting the tractor at age 4. Incidentally, my brother now works at the company that designs these tractors. You never really do leave the farm. So this is my dad, Tom. You know, as you gathered from this conversation, you know, he's a farmer. He's also really conservative. He's involved in Republican politics in the area. He's running for county office right now on the Republican ticket. He really loves Chris Christie. I just really don't understand it. But as you can probably tell from looking at me, I am not a farmer. I am also not a Republican. This is me in high school. I started campaigning for Ralph Nader. I'm really sorry, Al Gore. You know, tough nuggets. Anyway, so I started becoming a vegetarian. I put all these liberal bumper stickers on my pickup truck. I was like, screw this farming stuff. I'm out of here. Here I am, getting in my truck, driving away to Washington, D.C. to become a liberal reporter. You know, here I am on TV talking about how terrible conservatives are. As you can imagine, this is like not always sat very well with my father. You know, here he is hanging out with his like Republican buddies. He's like, yeah, I don't know about that hippie daughter of mine. Like, where did she come from? You know, we've had some really epic fights over the years. We fought about the Iraq War. We fought about gay marriage. We fought about Obamacare. I mean, there's just like a lot of issues you don't bring up if you can avoid them. And I'm sure a lot of you, who here has like somebody in their family that you just don't talk about politics with if you can help it? Basically everybody, right? So this is like my dad and I on most subjects. But here's one thing. My dad has never disagreed with me on climate change. We've never had a fight about this. You know, it's because my dad actually deals with the environment every day. Unlike for like people in Washington where it's kind of inconvenient when it rains or kind of annoying when it's like a little too hot outside, he actually has to depend on the weather to make a living. You can't farm unless you have reliable weather and reliable climate patterns. So take, for example, this year. In June, we had a field of squash that we lost the entire crop because it was so wet in June. We lost 50 acres because a disease spread in the soil, and we had to just tear them all out because you couldn't sell them. I mean, that's, you guys go buy your squash at Giant, but like somebody actually had to grow that in a field, and we couldn't grow it because the weather was too bad this year. But so farmers actually, they actually have to deal with the environment all the time. They know when it's too wet. They know when it's not wet enough. They deal when it's too hot or when it's too cold. Farmers actually, the weather is an actual thing that they have to worry about. There's a whole reason that they have the whole idea of the farmer's almanac is that, farmers need a reliable predictor of weather and climate patterns, and people should look to this because farmers are people that you will trust to know what they're talking about on this subject. Incidentally, the farmer's almanac was started in New Jersey for those of you who are still skeptical about the idea that I grew up on a farm. But climate change is going to be really, really bad for farmers across the country. Look, crop production overall is up in the US, but you see these dips where we've had years of drought. This is a chart of corn crop production in the US. And you see these years that are just really terrible. Farmers have to learn how to deal with these dips. Then you have years like 2008 where the Mississippi River floods, and it was right about the time that harvest would have been happening in these states, and they lost $8 billion worth of crops because of flooding. Okay, so here's the thing. My dad really kind of gets the whole climate change thing. It was kind of an easy sell because he's a farmer, blah, blah, blah. But you probably have other kinds of Republican fathers out there. Maybe you have a Republican father who cares about the military and national security. Or maybe you have a Republican father who is a religious conservative. Or maybe he's someone who's into business. Maybe your Republican father is Jamie Vernon. I don't know. My argument here is that you can find ways to connect with those Republican fathers by entering through things they already care about. Now, if your Republican father is Glenn Beck, or Rush Limbaugh, or like some kind of weird love child of Glenn Beck and Rush Limbaugh, I can't really help you. I'm sorry. Go home. But I'm going to give you some talking points that you can use when you go home. So save these, bookmark them for Thanksgiving this year. My first point is that for Republican fathers who are worried about the deficit or debt, they should really look at how much we're spending on weather-related disasters already. In the last 2 years, we spent $188 billion on weather disasters in the country. That's the GDP of Fiji every week. That's the budget of Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End every day. We're talking about wasted money here. Same thing. Okay, so maybe your Republican dad is kind of the religious conservative type. There's a whole group out there, it's called the Evangelical Environmental Network, that are dedicated to this idea that caring about saving the planet is also something that Christians should be concerned about. The idea is that mankind was given the earth and to protect it, and that we should be caring for it. The idea is creation care, and that we should all be taking care of this planet that we've been given. They run this campaign, it's called What Would Jesus Drive? The hint, it's not an Escalade. Jesus would be on the metro with all of us other chumps. Or another thing you can look at is, in the Bible it says that we should care about the least of those among us. If we look at climate change, the people that it affects most dramatically are people who are affected by asthma, for example, children, the elderly, people who are already sick. They're the ones who are most affected by climate change. Or if we look at annual heat deaths here in the US, right now, 1,300 people die due to extreme heat events here in the US. By the year 2100, that's the end of the century, we can expect that number to more than triple to 4,600 people every year. That's 2 Carnival cruise ships full of people every year who are dying because it's too hot outside. If your our family members or somebody who identifies as caring about the sanctity of life or say that they're pro-life, climate change is an issue that they should care about as well because it is a pro-life issue. Maybe your Republican father is someone who cares about the military. Well, in 2009, the Navy created its own task force to look at climate change. Their biggest concern is that the Arctic is melting so fast that it's creating a whole nother ocean that they need to patrol. This is just the change we've seen already. They know that in the very near future, they're going to have to actually be out there thinking about what's happening in the Arctic on a really tactical level. I mean, if it keeps up at the rate we're going right now, we could actually need Sarah Palin to watch Russia from her house. Then look at sea level rise. The National Intelligence Council has predicted that there's at least 30 different military installations around the world, US military installations, that are going to be affected by rising seas. This is Norfolk, it's just one of them, but we have billions and billions of dollars of infrastructure that are at risk because we haven't figured out how to deal with this problem. The Pentagon is also worried about climate change. They've identified it as a threat elevator in other countries. So we're looking at countries where there are already resource constraints, where there are already violent conflicts. Climate change is going to make them worse, and the Pentagon is already worried about that. Maybe your Republican father is somebody who is into the business world. They care about making money. They want to see business do well here in the US. Well, a number of the most profit-making businesses in the country are concerned about the impact of climate change on their supply chain. Companies like Nike, Starbucks, Levi Strauss, they've been leading this effort to say that we really need to do something about climate change or we'll put their business interests at risk. Even back in 2009, when we were debating a climate bill here in DC, we had companies like General Electric, Duke Energy, Siemens, even Shell Oil came out and said, guys, put a price on carbon because we want to know where this is going. So you can find ways, I think, to convince your business-minded father as well. My main point here is that values matter. People care about things that they care about, and it's really hard to get them to care about anything beyond those things. If you're going to communicate to people about climate change, you need to find ways to tap into the value system that they already hold and connect it with things that they already care about. As for me, okay, my dad and I, we still don't agree about a lot of stuff, right? He still loves Chris Christie. I still drive a Prius and kind of a communist. But we actually really love each other, and we found ways that we can connect our value systems and find mutual areas of interest. Thank you, guys.